Hey everyone, welcome to the Sound Waves podcast powered by Sound Cove Labs. I'm Rob Petrosh, the founder of Sound Cove Labs here in Greenwich, Connecticut. On this show, we talk with leaders and founders who are growing smarter in the age of AI, automation, and modern marketing. Excited about today's conversation. We're chatting with Joseph Lambert from Joseph Junk Removal. It's a very fast growing brand in the home services space. And we're excited to learn from Joseph today. Welcome, Joseph.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, Robert. I'm honored to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. Tell us where you are in the world.
Yeah, so I'm just turned 24 years old. I have a wife and a little baby girl. I get to work with some awesome folks over at Joseph's Junk Removal. It's a business I got the privilege and opportunity to start when I was 17 in high school. And since then, got to work with an amazing team. And I think we've built something special in the home services space. And our goal is simple. We want to build leaders and pursue growth while providing award-winning service. So simple mission, great company. I really enjoy the people I get to work with, and hopefully we're being a little bit of a disruptor in the home services space.
Awesome. And in the Atlanta, Georgia area, do you service the whole state, or where's your geography?
Yeah, anywhere in Metro Atlanta, we'll service. The state's pretty large, so we wouldn't quite go down to Savannah for, we wouldn't drive 6 hours to Savannah, but yeah, anywhere in Metro Atlanta is right in our wheelhouse.
Nice. Well, listen, it's great to hear your story from age 17 to now and everything that you've done, because a lot of people dream or talk about it, but you actually did it. So kudos to you on that front. I guess the question is, why did you decide to launch this business in this vertical? What was the motivation there?
Yeah, so I feel like to tell the story accurately and to give full context, I got to step back a few years. So I'm the oldest of five kids. When I was 12, kind of one of the big moments in my life was I have two incredible parents, loving parents. I have great relationships with them, but they ended up getting a divorce, which was, a good experience for me, not in the sense in the moment, but it forced me to have other types of outlets. And one of those outlets was working. So I started working in construction. I mowed lawns. I did really every home services you can imagine. I mean, I did pressure washing. I did demolition work. I did landscaping. I tried to put gutters on somebody's house. I mean, you name it, I tried it. After doing all that, I ended up falling into the junk removal space in 2019 because I had a landscaping customer who asked me to remove some junk for her, and then really fell in love with the junk removal business model after that because it was really simple, and I knew because it was simple, I could scale it. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I have a strong work ethic, and if I can wrap my head around it, usually I can run with it for a little bit. So that's what happened. Learned a lot, learned how to work with banks, learn how to hire people, fire people, build systems, do lead generation, provide excellent customer service. So we had a great run for a couple of years. And then actually, in 2023, I was approached by private equity, really got to the privilege to sell the business in 2024 to a platform that was private equity backed. Experience for me and for my team. One of the cool facts I love to tell out of this is we actually went to our team 6 months before we sold and said, we're pursuing this sale, but we want this to be a team win, not a win just for the partners. So we set out and told them in the moment, 4 and 5 figure bonuses for different ranks within the organization. And when we actually sold the company 6 months later, we got to bonus out everybody. And it was a win for folks that are making $15 an hour and folks that are making $100,000 a year. So got the privilege to do that. Have learned a tremendous amount personally, and the rest of our team has as well. Being a part of a private equity backed platform, it's definitely I think a different level of financial discipline and accountability and growth. But it's been a tremendous experience for all of us, and I feel like I've gotten 3 MBAs in 5 years.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal story. So how has your day-to-day changed since the private equity involvement?
Yeah, so I mean, for starters, we have such a great management team here in Atlanta. So I get the privilege to work with them a lot on a daily basis, but also work with the other brands in our platform. So I do a lot of work with everybody. I'm really just trying to add value wherever I can and help this business grow. To be honest with you, it's not a straightforward answer. What is my day to day? Because sometimes it's working with our Atlanta team. Sometimes it's working with the rest of the platform. But at the end of the day, just adding value where I can.
Great. So we have a lot of different home service companies on this show and even in the junk removal space. And what I found is sometimes the term can mean a lot of things where they show up with the bin, they bring the people. Sometimes they only do the bin, not the people. Where do you stand on your involvement with the customer?
Yeah, we try to be a full, almost luxury type of service. So if you hired us out, we would send a team to your front doorstep. All you're going to have to do is just point to what you want gone. Doesn't matter if it's in your basement, the third floor, or in your garage. Then they're going to write up a custom estimate for you right there. And if you approve it, they're just going to load it in the truck and get it out of your way, and you're going to pay the bill at the end. So, you just basically show them what needs to go, approve the price, pay at the end, and that's it. So, that's really our value offering, even though I know there are some other companies that kind of do various versions of.
Well, listen, one thing I see, especially here in Connecticut, either watching TV or just driving down the street, you see a lot of these 1-800 junk insert name there companies. I'm sure you're familiar with all of them. I guess, just talk about differentiators between you and what I see on TV or the brands that I see on TV.
Yeah, I think the main differentiator, especially from a consumer perspective, is going to be who shows up on your front doorstep. In reality, Robert, like the prices, the trucks that we drive, loading it in the truck. I mean, those things are all pretty similar. For us, we hire almost exclusively college students. And the reason we hire college students is from a customer perspective, we're hiring the future construction managers, lawyers, doctors, etc. of the world. So these are really high caliber individuals that we're getting to capture for a couple years while they're still finishing their degree. And we get to use that as an advantage to provide better service. We don't hire guys off the street. We don't hire guys that are doing drugs. You can read between the lines here, but we're not going to hire anybody that I wouldn't send to my grandmother's house. And a lot of other companies, that's not what they do. Their guys are rugged. They smell a certain way that you wouldn't want them in your home. They're not clean shaven, and we're just not going to do that. We don't make any exceptions on hiring. We don't take chances on people. If we have the slightest inclination that they're not the caliber of person that we would, send to our mother or grandmother's home, we're not even going to give them a second look. So we are very intentional and thoughtful about who we hire. And I think that's why our service is such a better service than the other companies that you would bring to your front doorstep.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, the takeaway there, it's people, 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 probably what sets you apart. And I think that's right. I mean, listen, I think in this business, no matter who you hire is super important. But when you're going in someone's home, it really is another level. So I appreciate your thoughtful approach there. Changing gears a little bit, you mentioned the private equity. I was going to talk to you about what's going right now, and I think the private equity part is probably a good indication of how things have been going for you. But talk about the business. What's working? What's working really well?
Yeah, what's working well is people that are willing to double down and invest in lead generation, branding, and just, really just grabbing market share. It's a very different landscape than it was in 2021, 2022. In 2021, 2022, there was so much cash just flooding the market in almost every way. Like you literally had to be dumb to fail. Like it was so easy to be successful. Now it's not that way. People's budgets are tighter. Less people have jobs. It's certainly a harder market to survive. So that means, it has weeded out a lot of the smaller players or, just companies that didn't really have true talent leading them, which I think is a good thing for a lot of us because it's kind of cleansed the market a little bit and eliminated competition. But it's also set the bar a lot higher for a lot of us. And we really have to double down on efficiencies, making sure our brand is anywhere and everywhere. And just, again, nothing beats just providing great service because we can acquire customers all day long through Google and other lead gen sources. But if we can't keep that customer and earn their repeat business, our business is never going to be profitable. So even though all those things matter, it always starts for us with the customer service experience. And that's something we can just never compromise on.
Actually, that's a great point I'd love to get into is customer acquisition. A lot of people who listen to the show, that's that is the lifeblood of the company, of course. Talk to us about what works for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I think it's worth noting, marketing oftentimes is a math equation very broadly in an oversimplified way. But I think, at least for me, using that example helps me figure it out because, you know, you have to start with you have to get in front of enough people. Just enough eyeballs have to see your logo, and somehow you have to be memorable enough to where either when they Googled the service, they recognize you, or they just straight up call you. So you got to get impressions, whether that's through yard signs, reviews, trucks rolling down the road, paying to be first on Google, next door recommendations, Yelp reviews, billboards, TV, all those things matter. We've got to get eyeballs. And then once we get eyeballs, when we have the opportunity to interact with a customer in any way, whether that be on our website, through a text message, a phone call, that first interaction is absolutely key. We've got to crush it. So, what does that look like from a phone call perspective? That means we have to get on the phone very quickly. So, when we work with our contact center, one of the most important metrics we look at is how long is somebody waiting on the phone. And we try everything we can to get that down so that somebody touches a real person as soon as possible. Same thing with text messages and emails. Speed is absolutely key. And then we look at it like our digital marketing, whether it be landing pages or websites. We want it to be incredibly simplistic and easy to use. Call to actions are very clear. And I think call to actions are important to talk about because as businesses generally sometimes what we do is we formulate our call to actions based on the action that we want, not what our customers need. So we've really had to rethink a little bit, especially in this landscape. How do we craft our call to action and our options on our webpage and what we list to what the customer is looking for and needs? And honestly, that really doesn't come with us sitting in a room together thinking about what our customer wants. It starts by guys like me going and getting out on the front lines, answering phone calls and meeting with customers and actually asking them, what do you want? What can we do better? How can we make it easier for you? And it's a journey, obviously. We got to figure out one way along the way. But getting in front of as many eyeballs as you can, crushing it with that first interaction, and then once you get on site to provide the actual service, again, you got to blow their socks off because for us, we break even when we acquire a customer for the first time through Google or some other lead generation source. We actually become profitable when they either call us back or when they refer us. So that repeat referral is crucial. So we've got to make sure that that customer sticks with us. Obviously, it starts with great service, but there are other things we can do to kind of keep them sticky. A good thing we do that I think, I would advise a lot of businesses to do is we have a simple magnet. It's the size of a postcard, has some really friendly faces from our company on it. It has our logo, and then it has little 8 hole punches at the very top of it with a discount on each one of them that gets larger. So every time you use us, we have a hole puncher in our truck. We just punch it for you, and you get a discount each time. I believe that somebody's fridge is probably the best form of advertising you can have. So if we can give them something that has a little bit of value that stays on their fridge and it's a reason for them to call us back, that's a great way to keep people. And then if you just crush it with the experience, people want to add value to other people. That's a psychological fact. So if you provide great service, people are naturally going to want to share about your service with their friends. That's I know it's quite a few steps there, but that's kind of how we think about the whole process.
Yeah, and I think that's a great perspective, and you touch a lot of different parts of bringing joy to the customer there. I guess back to the acquisition part, between digital and more traditional ways like direct mail, what's killing it for you?
Yeah, I'll say direct mail personally, we haven't had a lot of success with it. And part of that I think is because in junk removal, our average sale is about $400 to $450. So we have to generate a lot of volume for the business to work. And the cost of direct mail compared to, the amount of volume we needed to generate just never made sense. We've tried it, it didn't work. So Google is by far our number one lead gen source, just PPC, LSA, a Google Business Profile, kind of that group together. We've had really good success with TV and yard signs as well. We have a lot of people that just call us because they see our trucks on the road. The good thing about our business is our trucks are always going all over the city, everywhere, and they're big yellow trucks, so like they're hard to miss. So we get a lot of business through that as well. And then, I would never overlook things like community involvement, like festivals, Chamber of Commerce, BNI groups. Those are important too. But definitely the big ones are going to be like Google, yard signs, seeing our trucks all over the road, those types of things.
Things help. Yeah. Now, have you explored? I mean, listen, your brand seems fun. Just looking at your hat, it looks fun. You've got a great story and a great personality. Have you investigated like short form video and having a little fun with the brand?
Yeah, we definitely do. In all honesty, it's more informs actually like what we're doing right now through podcasts, TV interviews, those types of things. You know, what we found is our customer base is largely middle-aged and older. Typically, like the 18 to 25-year-old age bracket is not really our customer. Our customer, if we define it like very specifically, is a 50-year-old stay-at-home mom who lives in a, home that is worth at least $500,000. That is our primary customer. So that being said, we haven't invested heavily in social media while we do have a presence there. Also, how many people like find a junk removal company interesting when they're scrolling on TikTok? That being said, we do try to share our story everywhere we can. Kind of alluding to a earlier point about recruiting, we've learned that, people do business with a local company often because of the people, not because of the logo or or the service or anything like that. So we try to tell our story and make our people infectious as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's really smart idea, and you can make it fun, even in junk removal, and I think you guys can do that. Do you obviously you mentioned your target consumer, which makes sense. Yeah, I think back to when I was 18 to 25, I hadn't accumulated enough stuff yet, but now I have plenty and can use you guys. But you talked about your target market. Is there a B2B side to this business as well, or are we all B2B?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, we're part of a platform. Different markets have different concentrations of B2B. Like our highest market concentration of B2B, I think is about 30% B2B versus 70% B2C. Ours is about 15%. So we do a lot of business with like apartment communities and storage facilities and realtors. That being said, it's a lot lower margin for us, so we have to find some scale and just overall efficiency for it to make sense. But we definitely work with a lot of businesses and have had a lot of success there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could think realtors, I think about the business of, they call it the three Ds, death, divorce, and downsizing. And all three of them fit your business really well as a kind of a way to target or find new customers.
Absolutely. Yeah. So to your point, we've worked with, attorneys who handle divorces. We've certainly worked with like real estate or like I guess real estate planners.
Yeah.
There's a term for it that's escaping me, but
Estate.
estate planner. That's what I was working
Yeah.
for or going for. Or like people do estate sales. So yeah, those have been some really great partners for us in the past. Also, like professional organizers have been a good partner as well.
That's a great one.
Senior living facilities have been a good one too. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, definitely. No, I see so much opportunity. They're always looking, and sometimes you also have the older parents whose children live in other states who don't want to be dealing with this junk removal. They just want it to be
Yes.
easy and done. So, these are the things that the conversations we have with other owners kind of in the space about things that we've seen work. So we've talked about a lot of the great things and there is so much positive, but talk to me about some of your frustrations of, listen, we know running a home service company is really hard. What is hard for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think lead gen is it's always a battle, especially when it's a crowded, saturated market. I think good competition makes us better, but it also just means there's less to go around to a bunch of different companies. So I'd say that's always a fight. Where growing revenue is not as easy as it was 4 years ago. I would say that's one of the biggest things. In the state of Georgia specifically, insurance is a real battle. It's a lot more expensive for us than in some other states. So that's something we just kind of have to deal with. But to be honest with you, Robert, like it's a great business and we have a lot to be grateful for. I feel privileged to have, kind of found this business and, privileged to be in it. So a lot to be grateful for, but it doesn't come without its challenges.
Of course. Yeah, no, they all do. They all do. If it was easy, everyone would do it. When you think about, and considering the involvement with private equity, I assume, and just talking to you for 20 minutes here, I assume you have these numbers, but when you look at metrics, volume, reviews, repeat customers, how do you analytically look at how do you start your morning? Do you have a dashboard? Like how do you operate in that world?
Yeah, so we have something we called a daily revenue report that we get sent. It's either late at night or it's early the next morning. And it goes over a couple things. So it goes over if we're on pace or off pace with our sales goal, which is kind of a good metric for, do we need to go try to call a bunch of estimates and try to get ahead or, are we on par? etc. Another thing we look at pretty closely, especially here in Atlanta, is something called direct labor. And what it means is what is the percentage we are spending on base wages for guys in the field. And the reason why we look at that is it helps us see, are we on track to hit our gross margin target, which is really just a direct reflection on efficiency. Because we in some fashion take kind of the Costco approach, and that we want to provide great service and we want to pay well, but we also want to give really good prices to our customers. And we really do not believe, unfortunately, like a lot of others do in the industry, about just raising prices to beef up our margins. We believe we want to give a fair price to our customers that's at or below market rate. And then we want to find our profit margin and efficiencies, not just in raising prices. And it's a battle. We really have to find those efficiencies. So staying locked in on those is essential to the survival of the companies. That stat we call direct labor is a really important one for us because, field labor is our single biggest expense. And there are certainly other things we look at as well. But I would say, are we on pace or off pace with the sales goal? Are we on pace or off pace with, yesterday's labor is also another really big one.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Earlier in the conversation, you mentioned being quick to answer the phone, super important. If not, they're just going to go to the next guy. You mentioned lead gen. So you mentioned some of the things that have been mentioned by other founders on these calls. Obviously, no surprise in either one. I always like to ask people, though, just generally looking at your business overall, if you could wave that magic wand and fix one thing, what would it be to make your life easier?
Man, I think my life is already pretty great. I don't have anything to complain about. This is completely personal. This isn't business advice, but I just love when we buy a new truck. It just looks so clean. And the nature of our business is that we go to landfills, so our trucks just get dirty. And I just love the look of a clean truck, man. Like I wish every time our truck rolled out, it looked like a fire truck and was perfectly clean and spotless. So if I could change anything and wave a magic wand, it would be that we all had brand new trucks so that they looked like fire trucks rolling out of the station every day, which our customers probably don't care that much, but I do just because I think I'm a little bit anal like that.
Hey, listen, I think that is fair, and you have a lot of pride in your company, and nobody doesn't like to see a nice clean truck when it's showing up in your driveway. So I get that one. Yeah, listen, in our final minute or two here, just love you to think ahead. Maybe a year, a couple of years. If you and I are doing this conversation in 2 years, how does Joseph's look different?
Yeah, I mean, our plan has always been to be a powerhouse, not only in Atlanta, but in the entire Southeast. So, we're certainly exploring other markets that we would like to expand into. So, 2 years from now, I would certainly love to see us expand into a few more cities and just growing our footprint here in Atlanta, kind of as kind of a hub and spoke model where Atlanta kind of fuels expansion to other markets in the Southeast. That would be awesome. That's what we're shooting for.
Amazing. Well, why don't you tell our, at least for now, Atlanta people how everybody can find you and the company?
Oh, josephsjunkermobile.com. That's all you need to know.
That's a great URL. Well, listen, we really appreciate you coming on today. I love your story. It's truly fantastic. And I feel that vision that you have for a couple of years is going to happen. But listen, we just really appreciate it. And we wish you the best of luck.
Robert, I just appreciate you having me on. It was a real honor.
Okay,
Thanks a lot.
have a great one. Thanks, Joseph.
You too, man.
Then thanks everyone for joining today. We'll see you on the next episode of Sound Waves. Thanks.